So pardon the surfing pun again, but let's drop in and talk about the ingredients involved in Storm's pre-workout. So Storm has dropped into the industry this year with some different kind of marketing pointing towards some alt culture communities like surfing, skateboarding, maybe even some MMA they've also gotten into. But we're going to break these things down the same in terms of formula, ingredients, and quality. So pardon the surfing pun again, but let's drop in and talk about the ingredients involved in Storm's pre-workout. There may be some things on this panel that look familiar to you. We're actually going to have a fun time getting into why these ingredients work together quite well. Hopefully you've watched some of our other content and you'll catch some of the parallels. I'm not going to make them too obvious, but there are a lot of fun synergies going on here that make this product work better than it may even look on paper. This product is aimed at not just focus. Focus is a huge part of Storm's branding, not just their focus product, but also the pre-workout and other products to come in other categories. Focus is going to be a big deal, but we're also looking for stimulant, mood, and as well as pump in here. Now, there isn't going to be a ton of pump because obviously if you're hanging 10, you don't want to have too much of a pump while you're surfing or whatever other stuff there is, but this is definitely a product that you can hit the gym with and get a nice healthy blood flow to those vanity muscles as well. So off the top, we've got our normal 4 grams of citrulline. Citrulline starts at 3 grams for clinical dosages. I like to see a minimum of 4. 4 right here is going to hit that minimum, and there's also some other stuff in here that's going to be working together with it to make it more powerful. So obviously with the pump, we're talking about vasodilation here. Nitric oxide, a molecule that's produced by endothelial and epithelial cells that triggers vasodilation, like I said. Now, it is important to note that lower levels of nitric oxide have been linked towards cardiovascular diseases, so this does have a health benefit as well, but obviously most often here we're looking for those extra veins, that fuller muscle when we're working out. So citrulline here is a precursor to arginine, which will look familiar in the panel a little bit later on. Weirdly enough though, arginine is the most direct precursor to nitric oxide, but supplementing with citrulline actually works better than supplementing with arginine. Now, this is due to a few different reasons, but I'm going to skip one ingredient and mention why we have more arginine in here when I just mentioned that arginine isn't as helpful as citrulline at boosting nitric oxide. So we've talked about how citrulline is better than arginine in most cases, but what we haven't talked about is how the combination of both of them is actually better than either one on their own. Now, arginine has been, I would consider, kind of like outdated for some time because of the poor bioavailability when looking specifically at arginine directly to nitric oxide. But when you put them together, there's a synergistic effect and we get even more nitric oxide from that combination. What I kind of like about this is they bring a little bit of vintage old school vibes by using arginine. This was a bigger ingredient in the 2000s, and a lot of that skates, surf culture. For me, I feel like a lot of that is old school vibes. I think it's kind of a funny thing there, but also we're just looking at a really nice blend to drive some blood flow. Now, what we skipped over to get there is going to be beta-alanine. I talk about beta-alanine quite often. At 3,200 milligrams here, we have the most common clinical dosage. It's been studied anywhere between 800 milligrams and 6,400 milligrams. And what really is going to change there is how quickly it loads into your body and how much paresthesia or that tingly feeling that you get. Beta-alanine is an ingredient that has to be loaded. So you have to have about 179 grams of it in your body over the course of a short term to load that into your body. Once you're loaded there, you're going to notice lactic acid buffering. You're going to be able to perform for longer sets. Anywhere between 30 seconds and 10 minutes is really where it shines. Because you are removing that lactic acid, you should be able to add more reps to your sets, possibly endure more workload, and thus increasing volume. Volume is directly correlated with hypertrophy and a lot of other metrics for quantifying your growth or your progression over time. And for that reason, there is an indirect correlation between beta-alanine and mass gains. Now, there's been 2 different meta-analyses on beta-alanine. The first one was about the efficacy of that and shows all that it does for us. The second meta-analysis was for safety. And because of that paresthesia tingling thing that you get, I think that the safety is important to note. Some people don't like that tingle, but it is important to show that it is a safe ingredient to be using. It's one of the most studied and most backed ingredients in the industry. I love beta-alanine. It's a big thing that I take daily. I think it's important to always be making sure that you are loaded full of it so that you can perform better in the gym. But once we get out of there, we get into vitacholine. Now, vitacholine is going to be choline bitartrate in its L isomer form. It's 1,335 milligrams, which yields 547 milligrams of choline. Remember, choline bitartrate is the highest yielding choline source on the market. Other ones like acetylcholine or alpha GPC may have other claims, but with vitacholine, you're getting the right isomer of the highest yielding choline source in the market. Now, what do I mean when I talk about the isomer for vitacholine? Because it's an L isomer, it's going to be similar to a left hand with a left-handed glove. You could put a right-handed glove onto a left hand, the analogy here being putting a different isomer into your body, but because it's not the relevant form, it's not going to work as well. So in this case, we are supplementing vitacholine, which is the relevant form to be used in the body, and that will cause better production of acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine we talk about quite often in these videos, whether it's a nootropic video or pre-workout. Acetylcholine is the learning neurotransmitter. It helps with focus, it helps with awareness, it helps with even muscle contractions. It's an important neurotransmitter for a lot of the topics that we talk about. So you're definitely going to notice a lot of mind-muscle connection here, or connection to whatever it is that you're trying to focus on. Now, from there, we go into more max focus and alertness ingredients with a gram of tyrosine. Tyrosine is a precursor to other neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, things like norepinephrine and dopamine. This is going to activate the sympathetic nervous system by driving the production of these neurotransmitters. That's going to turn on the fight or flight response that you feel in the gym. So you're going to be focused in and you're going to be really tuned into the task at hand. I'm a big fan of big doses of tyrosine. I've gone much higher than 1 gram, but 1 gram is where we start to see the effects of it. For most people who aren't looking for a super intense effect, this is going to be a nice dosage. But definitely don't be afraid to add maybe 2 more grams in for heavy days. I've done it before. It's a very fun experience. From there, we get out of the focus realm and more into the health and endurance side of things. Taurine. We have had a full gram of it. Taurine is an incredible osmolyte. It helps out with a ton of different things in terms of athleticism and endurance for the body. There's an entire article from Molecules entitled "The Role of Taurine in Mitochondrial Health More Than Just an Antioxidant." I've done a lot of videos where I talk about taurine. I'm not going to go too far into it, but it's suffice to say that it is an incredible ingredient. If you are in any way athletic or performing in any sort, it's an important ingredient to be using frequently. Now, as we're rounding out on the back part of the product, we are out of the focus ingredients and the performance ingredients, but we have some very important ones to talk about here, which most will come to pre-workout categories for stimulants. Now, we've got 300 milligrams of caffeine anhydrous. Caffeine anhydrous is the normal caffeine that you find in most products. It is going to be at 300 milligrams, which is a kind of middle of the street dosage right now. It used to be on the higher end, but as the industry has expanded and they've got higher dosages with caffeine, 300 seems like less and less each year. Some people may be turned off by, something over 250, but I definitely would recommend trying out this 300 milligram dosage if you haven't gotten to this before. It's the normal dosage in a Bang or a normal energy drink, but with all these other ingredients around it, it creates a nice robust effect. Keep in mind that safe data for caffeine is as high as 12 milligrams per kilogram. You can go much higher than you probably expect, and really what you'd start to run into in terms of side effects outside of the jitteriness is really just gastric distress, and that is so far away from what 300 milligrams is. I recommend, if you're thinking it might be a little bit much for you, give it a shot. Start out with half a scoop if you want, but I would definitely give it the full shot. It's important to note, though, that caffeine is not the only stimulant in here. It definitely is the primary, but on the back end, we've also got 100 milligrams of theobromine. Now, theobromine is chemically very similar to caffeine, and one of the nice things of that is it has a longer half-life, and in studies, it has actually been subjectively, of course, shown to promote energy alongside with caffeine and make the participants of studies feel as though there was more going on, but also have less of a crash and a longer suppression of appetite. So this is going to have the same euphoric effect of caffeine, but possibly last longer with less of a crash and just feel a little bit more intense. Now, last ingredient here, estrogen, is going to play back into an earlier conversation. We were talking about bioavailability of citrulline and arginine and how they create nitric oxide. This last ingredient is a bit of a secret weapon down here, improving the bioavailability and absorption of citrulline and arginine significantly. So what we already were seeing in citrulline boosting nitric oxide, citrulline with arginine boosting nitric oxide, I mentioned that arginine had a problem with bioavailability. This ingredient, estrogen, is going to help work on that a little bit and boost everything even more. It is important to note that is just kind of me working through logically how the ingredients work. There is no study to show citrulline plus arginine plus estrogen has these effects, but NuLive, the creators of estrogen, do have quite a few amount of data sets that show that estrogen increases the absorption of citrulline and arginine significantly, and with more of it, we can imagine there is a more robust effect. Now, the product comes in a few different flavors. I have it in Blue Raspberry Rage. I love the names of these ingredients. The other one, the Steezy Peach for the focus. I've enjoyed all the flavors. They're made very well. They're not huge products. So there's not a lot of hurdles to get over with flavoring them. But with Blue Raspberry Rage is a very good blue raspberry that you're probably used to. I do say I had this product for free, so I hope this was educational, informative, and helpful for everyone that was curious about the product. But keep in mind, we do have a business relationship with Storm, so that has to be out there. As always, guys, I hope it was helpful. I hope this helps you pick a different pre-workout today. This is a new brand busting onto the scene. You might not be a surfer or a skateboarder, but I definitely think you could probably benefit from using this pre-workout. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. And as always, guys, have a great day.